Welcome, everyone. This is episode 6 of the Service Lounge, and I am your host, Brandon Nixon. And with me today, I have my co host, Christian Egan, and we are really excited about getting this episode going for you guys. Christian, we're at episode 6. I mean, it's
Crazy,
gone by
man.
quick.
Yeah, it's gone by really fast, and it's amazing. I think where we were in episode 1 to where we are now. So we got some more good stuff coming.
Yeah. Well, and for those of you who are listening on and have been watching over our last episodes, we do just have to first off start off by giving a big thank you to you guys. You guys have given us a tremendous amount of support. We've gotten amazing feedback of what we can tweak and improve on. And we've also got a lot of guest speakers lined up for the 2025 year, which I'm really excited about because I think the more we can get more industry professionals, if you guys haven't listened to our episode last month with Kenny Warren from TMNA, we're one of the first ones I like to say that got an OEM perspective on the service drive, which I think is some crucial information for some dealers. So again, thank you everybody who's jumping on. It's been a good journey, and Christian and I were a little leery about getting this launched off, but it's been good so far. So, well, let's jump into the topic for today, and I'm sure you guys saw with our thumbnails, but our main topic today is all about this thing right here, this tablet check-in, and getting your dealership in a process that's able to effectively write up a customer in the service drive on the tablet. Part of why we wanted to do this portion as its own episode on its own was the fact that we know that there's dealers around the nation who have really tried to launch off doing tablet check-ins and have failed time and time again, right? So today we're going to talk about some best practices, some steps that you need to take before you even think about doing a tablet check-in at your dealership, right? As well as get customer feedback. We got some real customer feedback. We're taking it back to getting that customer feedback of what they're saying about being checked in at their vehicle with their tablet and how that's going to positively affect your business. So, all right, well, let's jump into our topics here. First thing I want to start off with is infrastructure. And Christian, I'm going to have you chime in here because I know you've got a lot of experience with this. But for a dealership who's looking to start doing a tablet check-in that hasn't done that sort of process before, maybe is just writing up on their desktop or doing paper check-ins. When it comes to infrastructure, what are some things that are absolutes that dealers have to look after before they even start going into that process?
Yeah, there's a couple things when it comes to infrastructure. It's not as easy as just buying a tablet and everything just works perfectly. A couple key areas that we, make sure to check with dealers on and make sure they're good is one, just the Wi-Fi strength, right? Yep. It's got to, has to at least be 50 over 50. We like it to be closer to even 100 over 100 to make sure that they have speeds for videos, photos, and connecting to the DMS to make sure everything works properly. Another part of that would be just overall access points with how big their service drive is, how long it is, how far the advisor's walking from their desks to the car. When it gets busy, is it 10 cars deep, which means you have to have Wi-Fi coverage way farther out than you normally would right in the service drive. And then just, a couple of the other things with the process of, the advisors utilizing the tablets, making sure that they print properly to the printers and everything like that all culminates to, are the advisors going to have success when utilizing the tablets? Or is it just going to be this thing that they hate and want to throw in their drawer and not utilize it or look at it again?
It becomes a big paperweight that people complain about, right? Well, so two things you mentioned that I think we need to almost, I hate to say this, but dumb down a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Is when you talk about upload and download speeds, you mentioned that minimum you want to have 50 upload and 50 download.
Yep.
We prefer 100 up and 100 down. I encourage everybody who's listening on right now, identify what your current home internet is at, right?
Yeah.
I would almost guarantee that none of your guys' home internet is less than or right at 100. I would say today you're at least 250 to 300 up and 300 down, right? And think about how many devices you have at your home that are connected, whether it's your speakers, your TVs, your phones, your computers. every single device, even if your kids have devices, it could add up to a huge list.
Yeah.
And you're at 300 over 300. I can't tell how many times we go into dealers who are only at like 20 and 20. And think about how many devices at a dealership and how many people are simultaneously connected to it. So Wi-Fi, I think, arguably is the most important aspect of this whole entire thing. That if you do not have the correct Wi-Fi, internet access points you had mentioned,
Yeah.
you're never going to be successful no matter what tool you
You're
use.
going to get spinning wheels. Things aren't going to load. The customers just waiting there, right? Waiting for you to present or get them to sign. And if it's not going along smoothly, then like I said, you're out of luck and it's not going to work.
Well, and I sympathize with the software providers, not only because we are one, right? But we've even seen stores that have bashed our competitors because, oh, their tablet check-in didn't work, right? And in all reality, it probably wasn't that their program wasn't working. It was because we go in there and the next thing you know, we find out, well, you've got access point issues,
Yeah.
you've got firewall blocking issues, right? That we
Yep.
work through to help and resolve. So let's talk about the access point, because I think a lot of people don't even know what that means, right?
Yeah.
Can you help explain what does it mean when you're hopping from one access point to another and how that can affect you doing a check-in?
Yeah, so when you have your tablet, right, and you're walking around the service drive or out of your service advisor office to a car, depending on that distance that you're going, when you're in your office and you picked up your tablet, or when you started at the front of the service drive and moved, like I said, depending on that distance, there might be a different access point or another location that you connect to in between where you originally started. And that jumping can cause issues if it's not doing it correctly, or
Yep.
smoothly. It can cause lags or to completely to drop. And we've seen that at locations before where they have issues in those scenarios and in those cases where it's not jumping correctly or it's taking too long or whatever it may be. So that is an important step, especially at a bigger dealership where you have a bigger service drive, you're doing more cars. You want to make sure you have strong Wi-Fi connection everywhere and smooth, connection between them. So if you're moving around with your device, with your tablet, you don't have any issues there.
Yeah, totally. Well, and before we hop off this topic of infrastructure and Wi-Fi and devices, if anybody here is listening on wants to learn a little bit more about what we've learned on some of the Wi-Fi requirements and stuff like that, feel free to reach out to us, because then we can actually help and share that information. Even if you're not, utilizing us, you're utilizing a different provider, we can probably help you out with what sort of changes do you need. Now, also, let's talk about types of devices. We get questions all the time of like, hey, can I go get a Android, tablet that's like 5 years old, or an iPad that's like 8 years old, right? I'm sure many people who are here on the call have had some sort of OEM program within the last 8 years where you bought a bunch of tablets for your service drive and then you stuck those in the cabinet because whatever, that process didn't work.
Yep.
Just assuming that you can just go grab those tablets and throw them into the drive and run with whatever platform isn't necessarily true, right? The moment Apple starts supporting the software updates on that iPad, a lot of the programs like Chrome and the browsers will not work. So that's one thing to keep in mind, especially is you're going to want to make sure you have up to date and at least, recent iPads. What would you say? Like, I think we recommend 2019 and newer, 2020 and newer iPad.
Yeah. Within the last couple of years, is perfectly fine. Some of the iPads update a lot quicker than the other ones, depending on what model it is. But if it's any newer than 3 years old, it works perfectly fine. And we know, right, that it's a huge investment for dealerships when they have to buy new devices, new tablets, especially if they're buying it for 8, 9, 10 or more service advisors. But that investment is well worth it in the long run.
For sure. All right, so let's switch points into actually getting the tablet check-in process rolled out, right? You're constantly going to get some pushback from either advisors or even management that a tablet check-in process, quote unquote, takes too long, right? It takes too long for me to go out there with my iPad, walk around the vehicle. And I would argue that part of the reason that we get that pushback is because of previous failures that honestly, not even on the software providers, DMSs have caused this stigma, right? Of we tried to do tablets in the past, but the DMS APIs weren't able to handle these RO opens in a timely manner, and it would take too long, it'd load too long. And next thing you know, the service advisors, like you said earlier, are throwing this into the
Yeah.
desk and not doing it. Also, you've got the second hand of it where you'll get advisors who are complaining about, well, if I just take a pen and paper, I can go through that whole entire process very quickly, right? Or if I'm using iPad, I have to click, I have to scroll through here, blah, 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 blah. What are going to be the benefits or certain areas that service managers have to sell to their advisors? And I say sell, but really convince those advisors that it's not going to take that long and it's worth it for them to go through and do that check-in process there.
Yeah, we train, right, and we train it the same way at almost every dealership to follow the vehicle check-in process. Sometimes it may take a little longer, right? Sometimes it may be a little faster, actually. But if you're following the process and you're collecting all that information, you're presenting it well to the customer, they're able to sign right there. You have a lot less of back and forth to and from a computer or walking a customer over to your desk to show them something. You can do it all on the iPad right there, as well as you're able to document photos. You're able to document a video walk around that's there that sticks with that RO, sticks with the vehicle. So if you need to go back and look at, an issue or something happens, that's always there too. So sometimes taking a little bit extra time, if it does end up taking more time, is well worth it in the long run because you have everything documented, it's all timestamped, and it's all been done because you followed the correct process.
Well, the reality we deal with in the industry is that customers, it's just a fact. We'll try to get something out of, saying that their vehicle has got a dent or a ding that wasn't there when they dropped it off, right? I always explain to dealers too, doing a tablet check-in isn't only about documenting on your side, but it's protecting that customer and the dealership from these damage claims, right? How many times a customer come back and say that scratch wasn't there when I dropped off my vehicle, right?
Yeah.
But a common mistake that we see is service advisors will just grab it. They'll get the video camera, they'll record a video, and they'll do like a 5-second lap around the vehicle, right? Recording that video. And I don't care if you have a 4K camera, if you've got a cinematic camera, if you run around a vehicle in 5 seconds, you're not gonna be able to pause that video and zoom in to find that exact scratch, right? Of exactly what's going on. So we always recommend take your time, right? Explain and use that time as you're walking around the vehicle, taking photos and videos to explain to the customer, hey, here's what to expect when we check in your vehicle, right? That's your opportunity to give the customer the value of why they're showing up to the dealer while you're going over there and you're taking the proper time of taking photos, videos of exactly any damage or dents or dings on the vehicle as well.
And it's about repetition, right? I mean, the first time the advisor gets the tablet in their hand, it might take them a little longer. The first couple of days that, they might forget where something is, or, oh, I forgot to click that or check that. But as they get the repetition in, as we're working with them and training them, and over time, as they get comfortable, they get a lot quicker. They know where things are at, and it's just easier on them. But at first, it's always going to be a little bit difficult because they're just getting used to a new product, a new tool, and just, how to utilize it while you have a customer right there with you as well. That's also can tell and notice that you're using, a new product.
So let's speak to that. What are customers saying about the tablet check-in? So I've got a customer comment here. We'll put it up on the screen for you. But this customer reads off, Jerome greeted me with such a great smile and friendly banter. And the next person checked me in on his tablet and was so polite and efficient. Such a nice crew.
Yep.
That all that customer did was for a subtle moment said, next person checked me in on a tablet. But the overall comment was that still human element of being polite, greeting that customer at their vehicle. I think oftentimes we have to step back as dealers and imagine from the customer's shoes, right?
Yeah.
Before you did this process, they had to get out of their car, walk through the door, hope somebody locked eyes with them to recognize that they need help, right? And maybe wait. And it's not a good experience. That experience of a customer showing up at my vehicle where I'm comfortable, greeting me, explaining to me what's going on. You get comments like Camille just wrote where, Jerome greeted me with a great big smile and a friendly banter, and it made me, have a much better experience there.
Yeah. It if the advisors, right, or we have this, some dealerships are utilizing tablet check-ins in a different way, right? Sometimes it might be a porter or greeter going to the car
Yeah.
with the tablet, might be the advisors going to the car with the tablet. But if everyone's following that same process, they know how to utilize the tablet to do the check-in, they're scanning the VIN, it's actually a lot quicker than asking a customer, hey, what's your name or what's your phone number? What are you coming in for? All that normal stuff. Once you're scanning it with the tablet and doing the vehicle check-in, you have all that information at your fingertips, and the customer receives that well on their end.
For sure. So we mentioned too, while you're taking videos and photos, being able to prep the customer on what to expect, right?
Yep.
And so I would mention, and part of one aspect of doing a check-in that I think is vital is that this is your opportunity to really set your first impression with the customer, right?
Yeah.
And first impressions are arguably one of the most important things out there when it comes to business relationships, right?
Yep.
So being able to stop that customer once you've completed the check-in and say, hey, here's exactly what you're going to get. When our vehicle comes into the shop, we're going to take a video of your vehicle. We're going to explain what's going on. We'll send you your inspection and any recommendations. Use that time that you're there doing your normal process of checking in the vehicle to set the first impression, right? And put that human element there. Not just you sitting there with your eyes down at the tablet and never looking up to the customer. You have to build that relationship while you're right there.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, and our implementation team works hard on that when we're training on site of setting the expectation. And like you said, when you're at that vehicle, when you complete the vehicle check-in, let the customer know you're going to get a text message right now. Have them open that up, have them go into the glove box, because that's going to lead to a higher success rate later on when NPIs are sent, photos and videos are sent, the payment's sent. If they get in there, they get utilizing it. It's a great result for the customer and the dealership, as we've seen at a lot of dealers.
So one thing that I looked up a statistic here regarding first impressions, right? And a lot of that first impression isn't just what you say, it's nonverbal communication, right?
Yeah.
And so there's an article that we can link in here from Forbes that they just did last year. And they talk about how number one thing that sets the impression is a lot of your nonverbal body interaction, right? When you walk out there with a smile on your face, maybe you haven't said anything, right? Or you've got a little bit of a pep in your step because you're approaching the customer. You're not having that customer approach you. Those small tweaks in your body language can change the way that customer is going to approach you about that service experience.
Yeah.
The reality is when customers come in to get their vehicles serviced, it's not the light of their day. It's not the number one thing they wanted to do that day, right? Very rarely are they coming in excited, right?
Yeah.
So it's our job as a dealership and as a service advisor to set that precedence with the customer when they show up so that they can feel confident that the rest of the experience is going to be smooth and go better than normal, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about bad check-ins to a positive check-in, right? There you can have one end of the spectrum where you're super busy as a dealership, right? We've been in stores where there's 20 vehicles lined up and it goes all the way out to the parking lot. Like if you guys who are listening on haven't ever been to Longo Toyota at like 8 a.m. in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning, you'll see that. You'll see that there will literally be 30 cars all the way out to the end of the parking lot, right? And that can create some anxiety for your service advisors because they're walking out going like, yep, today's going to be a busy day. And that changes the way that they do their check-in. So I think making sure that you have platforms, whatever platform you're using to do your tablet, that'll allow you to move as quick or as slow as possible, but still get the customer's information, I think will help to make things more efficient. And to your earlier point, make sure you have access points at the end of your parking lot, or else that whole check-in process just goes away and doesn't work.
Yeah, and you alluded to it earlier as well, right? Is involving the customer in the check-in process. If you're just grabbing your tablet, like you said, running around, checking some things, marking some things up, and then just asking for a signature, that's not the right way to do the check-in. Use the time to explain things to them, talk to them, get to know them, ask about maintenance packages or services, recommendations, all those sort
Yep.
of things is the right way to do a check-in, not just to get the speed of it done and to get a signature and get the RO open as quickly as possible, you know?
Well, I think you mentioned something that I think is a good thing to highlight, which is maintenance packages, right? Doing a tablet check-in while you're shoulder to shoulder with that customer and being able to click on the maintenance package, like let's see what
Yeah.
Chevrolet recommends on your vehicle, and you click on it, and that customer sees on the tablet that load up and bring up a specific package regarding their VIN. Your take rate is going to be a lot higher on those scheduled maintenance packages compared to you standing with the computer screen in between you and you're like, yeah, based off your mileage, we recommend this, and that, right?
Yeah.
Let the technology help you sell by saying, here's what the factory's recommending, and being able to show that and provide them like better and best options, even on your tablet, can help you get much higher upsell rates even before that vehicle's been completely checked in there.
Yeah, and I mean, we see the success of dealerships and the advisors, right? When they're utilizing the tablet check-in, they're going through all that. They're taking a little bit more time, possibly, but I think you looked up the statistics of it, but how much more dollars per hour are they increasing when they do a well done tablet check-in with their customers versus when they weren't doing it before, or they're doing a bad tablet check-in.
So you got perfect timing. I was just about to bring up that statistic. So we ran for 100 dealerships that are doing tablet check-ins at about 80% or higher, meaning that out of all the repair orders they're opening up, they're at least checking in customers 80% or higher, right? So we took 100 of our stores, and I checked the data from the average dollar amount of an appointment being booked and compared that to the average dollar amount after they complete that tablet check-in. And consistently across the board, 78% increase.
It's huge.
That's huge. Typically today, if you've got a service advisor, it's like, hey, what'd you come in for? Oh, you're just here for an oil change. Sounds great. Boom, boom, boom. Check in, done. You didn't give any sort of opportunity for that customer to provide more information or show the scheduled maintenance packages and maybe your better and best options. But showing 80%, 78% more recommendations just by doing that tablet check-in, that's the what's in it for them to your advisor when that advisor comes to you and says, I don't want to do this. This is a waste of my time. Right?
Yeah. That's a huge number, and proves why it's valuable to do a proper check-in, to make sure you're checking everything, doing the walk around, because it will yield results, and it yields good customer service as well. Even if you don't get an upsell that you wanted to get, right? If the customer's having a good experience, then that's really what matters at the end of the day.
Yep. So speaking of that customer experience, I just was featured on the Multi-Point Inspection podcast, which I'm sure some of you guys have seen it. But one of the topics I talked about, and I think it's noteworthy to talk about here, is dealerships need to also sit back and realize that the independents are already doing this, right? If you're a service manager listening to this or a general manager listening to this, go get your vehicle serviced at a Meineke or a Jiffy Lube or Pep Boys, whatever it might be. And then explain to your service advisors the experience you got, because almost every single independent shop out there is a couple steps ahead, and they're already doing this check-in process, right? And it's also what the customers expect. We have to think our consumers are no longer these older generations. We have a bunch of younger generations that they expect things to be quick. They expect things to be right at their phone, right here on a tablet, and see that. And if they don't see that, they think you're old school, and maybe you're going to try and price gouge them, and they don't feel as comfortable, right? But when it's more smooth and newer technology, you start to see the responses from the customers there.
Yeah, to piggyback off your what you brought up there real quick. Think about when you go to Chick-fil-A or drive-throughs, right? Fast food places. How many times are you getting an order taken on a tablet? And it's seamless, it works, and it gets the line moving faster. Or like you said, some of the aftermarkets, even if you go to like tire shops, America's Tires, they're using mobile devices, whether it's a tablet or a phone, and checking your tires and doing things on there without bringing any pen and paper out. So it's everywhere.
So let's read this customer comment, because I think it lines up exactly with the couple points you just mentioned. So Kyle, this customer just last week, said, there were 4 cars in front of me. I couldn't even enter the bay where you normally park the vehicle, as well as customers at every counter. So I instantly expected it to take forever. But she came over with a new tablet device and had me checked in before I was even out of my vehicle. It was a great experience. And even though I got there late, they were still able to take me in. 10 out of 10 service, right?
Yep.
That is like the perfect depiction of exactly what we're saying. Even
Yeah.
when you're busy, right? That customer who's waiting 5 cars deep, when they see you approaching with that tablet, you're instantly telling them that they're important and you want to do business with them, right?
Yeah.
Don't let that customer make a U-turn and leave and go to the next dealership just because they thought it was busy. I'll tell you, I don't leave the Chick-fil-A drive-through when it's, 30 cars deep, because I know they're going to get me in and out quick,
Yeah.
right? That's the type of experience we got to start, promoting in the service drive.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Like you said, even if the Chick-fil-A line wraps all around the parking lot, you see them out there working, you know you're going to get there. Same thing at the dealership. I think a lot of the times customers really get frustrated when they pull up, whether it's busy or not busy, and they don't see anyone out on the drive. They see people just sitting at their desks or huddled up together or whatever it may be. But if they're at least seeing people out there with tablets, like you said, the advisors or the, porters or whoever, checking customers in, talking, and the visibility is there, it gives them a better feeling than just being a ghost town on the service drive.
100%. 100%. People like to see people working when they're being serviced, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to see people just sitting around. So this is great information. And honestly, Christian, I feel like you and I could go on for another 30 minutes just talking about check-in processes, because we've experienced it. We've seen it. We went from, for people who are listening on, we went from early on within our company begging for dealers to do check-ins at like 20% of their repair orders, right?
Yeah.
To now having dealers exceeding 98, 99% doing check-ins, because it's not just the industry, but the customers' expectations have evolved.
Yeah.
Listen to your customers, know what they're going to expect. And to Christian's point, go look at anything that you do during the weekend or during the day, and all the businesses you interact with are in that new age technology. So we need to catch up. We absolutely need to. So, all right. Well, Christian, I appreciate the info. This has been very insightful. And for those of you who are listening on, if you guys aren't currently following or any of our channels, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever you guys get your media, definitely go follow and hit your subscribe button, because we'll be putting out more notices as well as more information. And if any of you guys would like to learn more about doing a tablet check-in process, we can set up individual time with you guys, even if it's a matter of like, hey, you're currently doing it today and you just want to learn some more best practices. We can spend individual time with you guys. So appreciate everybody jumping on. Christian, thank you for jumping on here.
Thank you.
All right. Everybody have a great weekend.
Bye, everyone.